Executive Director of the Miami Beach Bowl. His name is Carlos Padilla. Carlos, welcome to BYU Sports Nation. We want to know why you wanted BYU in a bowl game in its inaugural season.
Hey, well, first off, thanks for having me here today, guys, and I hope it's a good day up there in BYU country.
It is.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for it. There's no question that BYU is a storied program. It's your first time in Florida in 29 years, but the 9 consecutive bowl games under Bronco, 18 final season rankings in the top 25. I mean, you can go on and on. 32 bowl appearances, on and on. But with being the first year of the Miami Beach Bowl, we really wanted to make an impact not only in the local community but throughout the nation, and aligning ourselves with a national program like BYU was a natural fit for us, and to say the least, we couldn't be more privileged and more happy to have you guys in the game this year. And I know the Miami Beach and the greater Miami-Dade community is going to be super excited to have you here and show you guys some great hospitality.
So you Carlos, you've helped get the St. Petersburg Bowl, now the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, up and running, now the Miami Beach Bowl. I guess, what are the challenges of starting a new bowl game?
Really, the main challenge is getting the word out in the community as to who you are. It's similar in a lot of ways as to what we went through in St. Pete that we're dealing with here in Miami, and I say that in a good way. I consider it fun. If I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it for the second time.
Sure.
In St. Pete and in the Tampa Bay market, there's a much more established game there with the Outback Bowl. I think they're in their 28th or 29th year, and it's not unlike that here in Miami. You obviously have the Orange Bowl, which I believe has been around for over 80 years. So people always want to compare you to that much more established game, and it's different from that, but in a lot of ways it is the same. It's big time postseason college football, and in a fantastic marketplace at a great time of year. So the big part really is go out to the community, telling people who you are, what you're about, and just really educating them throughout the entire process. I'd say that's the biggest hurdle. But usually after you get through the first or second year, people really get a grasp of who you are, and it really starts drumming up excitement on an exponential level in the years past from there.
Carlos Padilla, Executive Director of the Miami Beach Bowl in its inaugural season, joining BYU Sports Nation. We've been talking about BYU uniforms. Is it going to be a requirement that the Cougars wear all white in Miami?
Well, I don't have that much power to tell you guys what exactly you need to wear, but I can tell you that white is one of the prominent colors used in the scheme here in Miami, whether you're on South Beach or you're downtown, you're in Brickell, or even in Little Havana here where the stadium is. White's a prominent color, so, hey, you guys would fit right in.
Carlos, do you own white pants?
I do not.
Oh!
I do not.
Spencer does.
I do own white pants, and I'm looking forward to wearing them in Miami.
Well, hey, grab a white jacket. You'll fit right in on game day.
Are there any Miami Vice or Burn Notice, pants that could be purchased to be able to fit in for BYU fans when they're down there? The Don Johnsons.
You can absolutely. You can find them right down the street from your the Lowe's South Beach, which will be it's a beautiful hotel. It'll be your hotel. Throughout the entire week. I'm sure there's a few stores you can go down there. Just make sure you bring your checkbook. Things aren't cheap down there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we have a few months, so we can get ready for that. Carlos Padilla, the Executive Director of the Miami Beach Bowl, is on BYU Sports Nation. Have you figured out what day the bowl game will be and if it is on ESPN?
Really all that I can tell you guys is, obviously you spoke to the commissioner, I believe, last week, and he gave you about all the information I could give you the same. Pre-Christmas game, that we really have been in negotiations on 3 dates, December 20th, December 22nd, December 23rd. And the way it really maps out for us is, are we going to be on ESPN? Are we going to be on ESPN2? We're trying to figure all those types of things out. We know we're not going to play on the 21st, okay? You have the NFL going in that time. So
Sunday play for BYU.
Right. You don't want to compete with the NFL. Nobody does. So, that date didn't work for us. Does the 20th work? I don't know. I think for the hotels here, and especially for your fans too, that you might want to make a weekend out of it. So having to come in on a Wednesday or even a Tuesday or possibly Thursday might not be the best idea. So I think right now we're looking at the 22nd or the 23rd. Obviously if it's a 22nd game, you're probably looking at around a 2 o'clock start leading right into Monday Night Football, which is on ESPN right after that. And obviously there's a little more flexibility on the 23rd, but then that has the fans traveling back on Christmas Eve. So we're really negotiating, kind of talking back and forth between the 22nd and 23rd. So right now that's about all I can say. We're hoping to get this deal done in the next few days, and hopefully we can do a press release and get to talking to you guys about what day you're coming in.
Fantastic. Will it be on an ESPN?
That's all I can tell you is we're negotiating with ESPN right now.
Okay, very good. Carlos Padilla, the executive director of the Miami Beach Bowl, former assistant executive director of the Beef O'Brady Bowl on BYU Sports Nation. There are several activities that go on during a bowl game week. In your experience, what's the biggest draw outside of the actual game?
No question for the student athletes, and again, very similar marketplace, being in Florida and great weather. No question, my 6 years in St. Petersburg was the Beach Bash for the players.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic event. I mean, in St. Pete, we did it. We had, big inflatable boxing rings. We had those big trikes that are, 6 feet tall for the players to ride around on the beach. We did a tug of war, and we had a pool party right there by the beach where we brought in a DJ, and the players did belly flop contests. There's no question that was the highlight of the week for the players and a lot of the fans that came to the game. We'll also be doing a team welcome party for the first day that you guys come into town. Still trying to figure out exactly what.
Specifically, the two of us.
Yeah, just the two of you guys.
Oh, awesome!
Hey,
this is fantastic.
we know the definition of VIP in Miami.
That's exactly right. Will LeBron James attend the festivities?
Good question. I don't know. I'll tell you what. If I could track him down, I'll sure as heck try to twist his arm.
We'll take Dwayne Wade, but not Chris Bosh. Is that all right?
We talk about the field situation. It's going to be at Marlins Park, which is a baseball park. BYU played at AT&T Park in San Francisco in the Fight Hunger Bowl last year. They had both teams on the same sideline. Are there going to be any interesting setups for Marlins Park? Like, are we going to see both teams on the same sideline again?
I don't foresee that being the case here in Miami. There's plenty of room on both sides. If you really look at it as a baseball field, which it is, one end zone is going to be third base and home plate, and the other end zone is going to be out to right field. So left field has plenty of space out there. I can't see any reason why we would have to put both on the same side. I believe we can have one on the first base side. We can have one out in the left field. So, I don't see that being something that we need to do here. I think the teams like to stay on their own side, like to have their own area. I don't see any need to complicate that here.
Carlos Padilla, the executive director of the Miami Beach Bowl, is on BYU Sports Nation. When you look at, you mentioned BYU's program and the prestige there, BYU matching up with the American Conference. What was it about the American that you liked with the matchup for BYU?
Well, I guess the easy answer to that is this game was started by the American Athletic Conference, and obviously BYU has a strong relationship with the conference. You guys play UConn, Houston, and UCF, if I'm not mistaken, this coming year. So there's a lot of similarities there as far as at least a short-term tradition with the American Athletic Conference. We feel you guys match up really well with several of the teams in our conference, and I think really just the reach of BYU, you guys being a national brand, a national team, a national institution for that matter, that it really just lines up well with what we're trying to do here locally, what we're trying to do here as a conference nationally, that it was just a no-brainer for us. I can tell you that, Taysom Hill's he's a heck of a player, and not many people, relatively speaking, have had a great chance to really watch him as closely as you guys have over there. So I'm excited to bring you guys into town and excited to introduce Taysom, to this market and to the other teams affiliated with the conference that you guys are not going to play this year. And I think it's going to be a really exciting game whenever we get here in December. We're
joined by Carlos Padilla, the executive director of the Miami Beach Bowl. We spoke with the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oresco, last week, and he said that if at all possible, you want to avoid a potential rematch. Does that mean that there's no chance for that, or if it came down to it and that was just the best game, you guys would actually settle for a rematch?
I would never say never, but certainly, to piggyback what Commissioner Oresco said, we really want to avoid that as much as we possibly can, and we really think there's some strong teams in the conference, that we could pick. That's not going to be UConn, Houston, or UCF. The conference is pretty well rounded, some exciting teams. I can't see there being a real scenario where we have to pick one of those to get a rematch in there. Again, that being said, I never say never, but I think we'll be able to find a competitive team that's going to play well. Hey, the beauty of this game being started by the American Athletic Conference is there's a lot of flexibility on the American side. We technically can, based on what happens at the top of the conference with the playoff, we technically have the first or second pick out of the conference to pick what works best for the game here, who matches up best for BYU, and who's going to really excite your fans to want to come to Miami. So there's a lot of flexibility there. I can't see a scenario where that really happens, but hey, as I started out with, never say never.
Right. Carlos, how much does BYU season figure into what opponent BYU will get?
Again, you guys are asking some great questions here. I think the season, we really have to look at it from a 30,000-foot view. If you guys are coming in with 9-10 wins, we're going to want to pair you up with the best possible team that we can, at the top of our conference. That's not to be said, though, that if you come in with 7 or 8 wins, which, what we really can't see you guys doing. I'm sure you guys just don't see yourselves doing that. But that doesn't mean that we're going to pair you with an equal team there. I think what it really boils down to is figuring out UConn, Houston, and UCF where they fall into the landscape of the bowl season at the end of the year, and then matching you guys up with the best possible team from the American Athletic Conference through that.
Carlos Padilla, the executive director of the Miami Beach Bowl on BYU Sports Nation. Above all, I think we just want to say as BYU Sports Nation, thank you for inviting us to Miami pre-Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, no question. I was looking it up. I was looking it up earlier today. It looks like the average temperature up there is in the 30s that time of year, and I can tell you,
yes.
We've ordered some great weather that time of year. We're typically in the 70s, so we look forward to having you guys here. Make sure you bring your swim trunks and your flip-flops.
And Spencer will bring his white pants. I
Yes,
can guarantee
and my
that.
white pants.
You know what? I'm making a note of that. I'm holding you to that one.
Hey, Carlos, if you want to play golf while we're down there too, they are white golf pants, so.
Hey, there you go. You can wear them a couple days in a row, once at the beach and once on the course.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Carlos, we thank you for the time. The executive
thanks,
director
Carlos.
of the Miami Beach Bowl. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you in December.
Sounds good.